this week we're continuing to look at Luke chapter 18, and specifically today I want to look at verses 9 through 14. And Jesus is going to talk to us a bit more about prayer and what it means to pray. Now, I lived in China for 6 years, and I learned all sorts of words and customs and cultural things while I was there. One of the words that I sort of learned but was never very good at was a word called guanxi. The best way to explain the word, and we have similar ideas here in the West, although maybe it's more, I don't know, it's more significant maybe in Chinese culture. But in English, maybe the way we would describe guanxi is it's not what you know, but it's who you know. There's a huge importance in all sorts of ways that relationships are hugely important in Chinese culture, both personally and professionally. And so Jesus is talking today again about prayer in this passage, and he tells another parable. And again, he's kind of emphasizing this idea. It's not what you know, meaning it's not religion, but who you know, relationship. Right? So the what and the who, the guanxi, it's not what can I do, what do I know, but actually who do I know? Am I in relationship rather than just emphasizing religion in my prayer life? So Jesus tells a very simple parable about a Pharisee, and he's directing this parable, I should say, to the Pharisee. And he tells this parable then of a Pharisee and a tax collector who go to the temple to pray. There was probably a service of some kind going on. This wasn't a private prayer, it was a public prayer in a service of some kind, a sacrifice that was being made. And we learn that the Pharisee basically stands up and says, "Thank you, God, that I'm not a sinner like everybody else, especially that tax collector over there." That his whole attitude towards prayer was he was relying on the what I know. He was relying on religion, not on relationship, not on the who. He was relying on the look what I have done, and so therefore this is what makes me good before God. Right? And then Jesus says that the tax collector prays, and what the tax collector says, in verse 13, it says, "The tax collector stood at a distance. He would not even look up to heaven, but beat his breast and said, 'God, have mercy on me, a sinner.'" You see, the tax collector's emphasis was not on what he could do. It wasn't on religion, because he said, "Look, I'm a sinner. I know that I make mistakes." Tax collectors were hated in Jewish culture because they were seen as traitors working for the Romans who oppressed them and often lining their own pockets with the money that they were taking from their own people to pay the Romans. So they were absolutely hated. And the tax collector says, "Look, I know what I am. It's not about what I can do." But instead, he appeals to God's mercy. In other words, he's appealing to a desire for a relationship with God, that this is the basis upon which he approached God. And in fact, those words there that he says in his prayer, he says exactly, "God, have mercy on me." Those words, "have mercy on me," if you translate them exactly, it's literally, "make an atoning sacrifice for me." God, I want to have a relationship with you. I want to know you. I want us to be okay. Have you ever had that kind of a conversation with someone? You know you've made a mistake, and your conversation is, "I want us to be good again. I want us to be okay." This was the heart attitude that he came to God in prayer. And Jesus' response to this, in verse 14, Jesus says, "I tell you that this man," referring to the tax collector, "rather than the other, went home justified before God." This word justified is a legal term that Jesus uses to talk about when someone stands before a judge in a courtroom, knowing that they're guilty, knowing that they could be convicted of a crime, and yet for whatever reason the judge acquits them of the crime and they leave with the judge declaring, "You're not guilty." And what Jesus says of this man's prayer is that the attitude of his heart was such that he didn't come in saying, "This is what I can do," but rather, "This is who I want to know." That Jesus, that God, would you make an atoning sacrifice for me? Would you cover my sins? Would you declare me not guilty so that I may have a relationship with you? Jesus says this is the way we need to approach God in prayer, that we come before him not in trying to justify ourselves, not trying to give a list of all the things we've done right, but rather coming a bit naked really before him and saying, I know what I am, I know what my mistakes are, and I long to have a relationship with you, Jesus. And it's because of relationship that we are found not guilty. It is because of relationship that God responds to our prayers. You notice Jesus never even commented on the other guy's prayer. He wouldn't even dignify it with a remark. He just said, that guy's still guilty. It didn't matter what the list was, he was still guilty. He was not justified. Only the tax collector was, and it's only because of relationship. The challenge for us today is to come before God in prayer and to seek him through relationship, not religion.